What up, nerds? My name is Leslie Smith. Today, I am so excited to bring to you another installment in my author series, Why My Story Matters. The whole idea behind this series is for readers who are like me. I'll read a story and sometimes I'll sense that there's a deeper meaning, but I always find myself wondering afterwards, what was the author's intent? What made the author write this story? What inspired it? What sparked it? What brought it to life? I've always been very curious, probably because I myself do not have the talent for writing, creating these stories. But I love to live in the worlds that these authors are so talented to create. And they're worlds that I want to go back to. And so I do by rereading over and over. So today, I would like you to meet author John Durgin. I discovered John Durgin by reading his debut novel, The Cursed Among Us. In addition to The Cursed Among Us, he has a short story that's been published in 2 anthologies. He also co-founded Livid Comics, where they currently have a Christmas horror story that is safe for all ages called Yule, and a new series set to release very soon called Deadball. So if you're thinking writing a debut novel, some short stories, and writing for a comic was enough to keep John busy, you'd be wrong, because in addition to all of that, he also co-launched a podcast called The Livid Comics Lair, where they have guests such as other comic book creators, authors, and paranormal investigators. You're probably thinking, okay, that's the end of all the cool stuff that this guy does. Nope. I also found his shop on Etsy where he does pencil drawings. I'm gonna have all of this stuff linked in the description box down below. He actually has a link tree that just has all of it in one place. So you can just go and explore all of his work to your heart's content. In late 70s, there was a serial killer that terrorized the town of Newport called the Black Heart Killer. Now, this person was eventually captured, has died, and then fast forward 20 years, we're still in the town of Newport. It's the 90s, and this is where our story begins. And if you're wondering to yourself if the author was able to capture the essence of the 90s, the nostalgia of that time period, absolutely. It was so good. I was just constantly reading references that just took me back to wonderful, wonderful memories of my childhood and teenage years. It was just spot on. So our story actually begins with a group of friends, teenagers. They're making their own horror film, a slasher, of course. And they get a little bit too deep into the woods. They just get caught up in the moment of shooting one of the scenes. They're kind of racing against the clock because of the lighting and where the sun is. And so they get carried away and they find themselves in a section of the woods that is off limits. Like the townspeople, it's very well known you do not go past this certain section. Never ever. And of course, what do teenagers do? They realize they're somewhere they're not supposed to be. You always have that one friend that's like, ooh, I bet I'm not supposed to do this. And then they do it, and then what happens? Exactly. Now that you know the premise of this story, let's talk to the author and find out what it was about this book that had it spilling out of him onto these pages. John, what about this story is most important to you?
I'll start out by saying so the main group of characters is based off myself and my friends in the era that we were that age. That's why the book takes place in the 90s. That's when I was in that time frame of my life. So to develop the characters was very easy. I literally took my group of friends and made them characters and obviously cranked it up a bit to make them a bit more entertaining. All along I knew I wanted to base the main group of characters off my friends. It was the first horror novel I ever read in 8th grade outside of Goosebumps. So I always wanted to, pay homage to it. That was what got me into horror.
I'm
So,
glad I'm not the only one that read that in junior high.
oh, I was reading Under the Blankets with a flashlight at night, because I shared a room with my brother and he hated that I would stay up late reading books. But, I always loved the whole aspect of coming of age trope, probably my favorite, I would say. And I knew all along that I wanted to base a book off my group of friends. And specifically, I've said this once or twice talking to people, but I really wanted to honor my friend. The character's name is Ryan in the book. He actually, in real life, that's not his real name. He passed away right after high
Oh,
school. So, like, it was kind of a tribute to him. That character was very much him. He wore his camouflage pants all the time. He was a big kid. He's a goofy guy. It was obviously sad and hit our group of friends pretty hard at the time. We had all
Yeah.
gone our separate ways to college, and we hadn't stayed in touch much with him. So um,
Oh, so that really hurt. Yeah.
some of those scenes were tough to write. Again, obviously, I don't want to spoil anything, but
Mm-hmm.
um, I can just say the birthday party scene specifically.
Mm.
You know,
That was
um,
so. I don't want to spoil anything,
yeah,
but it was heartwarming and heart wrenching at the
yeah,
same time.
and that has deeper meaning. That whole scene too, as to why it ended the way it did, which I can say offline so that I don't spoil
Oh.
anything. But yeah, a lot of those events actually happened to us as kids. Some of those conversations are real. Some of the actual events. The town Newport is my hometown. Like that's the name of
Oh
it. I didn't even
wow.
I didn't
Okay.
even disguise that. um, the ski jump is real behind the high school. Like all those facts about that were true. It got brought in from Lake Placid in the 70s, and it just it brought me back, and it made it so much easier to write the book. So it's kind of
Well,
a
yeah, you brought us there because it explains so much. Because the friend group in this book was so authentic. I instantly related just straight out the gate. In the
yeah,
first couple of chapters, how I came to read that book, I was all in because serial killer and the whole make the kids making the movie part. I was in. I love those two tropes. But once I started, I got attached to the teenagers because I saw myself in that group. I saw my group of friends in that group. So that explains you had them based off of your friend group. So that just explains why they felt so authentic.
yeah.
And with you writing it based off the town and the ski jump, you described those so well that I could just visualize it. I think I said in my written review, reading this book was like watching a movie in my mind.
Okay.
I would love to have this
Oh
adapted
my god.
into a film because
Yeah.
it's the kind I look for, especially where we're approaching spooky season and I start seeking out every single movie and I gravitate towards the same type and this is my type. If books were a type like people, this is my tall, dark, and handsome story right here.
That's
So that
awesome.
definitely came across to me.
Good. I specifically wanted it to take place around Halloween, but not be based off Halloween because I didn't want it to
Yeah.
be designated to like you have to read this at Halloween, but I
Yeah.
wanted it to have feel extra special during that time of year. So that's why I specifically made it, a Halloween homecoming party. Like in actuality, the homecoming for our football team happened in early September, like the first week of the
Oh,
season.
that's
But I'm like,
funny.
no, I need to push it
Yeah,
out.
we're gonna
Uh,
move it.
Yeah, we actually had a huge bonfire for it. Like that, all that stuff really happened. We actually filmed horror movies in the woods. Like that was our childhood. My best friend went to film school. He's an editor now. He doesn't direct, but
That is
his dream was to
amazing.
be the next Spielberg, basically. So, and that's Corey in the book. There actually is an unsolved mystery episode based off my hometown. There was a serial killer in the late 70s and 80s that never got found.
Oh
Um,
my gosh.
so, like, it was just so easy to piece it all together in my
Right.
head,
I'm sitting here going, dang, if something like this had happened around my hometown, I might of course, all of us readers would love to be able to create stories and write like you guys do. And now I'm saying, gosh, I just lived in the wrong area.
I mean, I will say my childhood was fairly boring for the most part. That's why, like I said, I had to spice up the main character on my revisions. When I was doing second and third draft, but there was a lot of interesting stuff around. Like that whole story
Hmm.
fascinated us as kids. The serial killer, and I'm like, I'm gonna tie that unsolved mysteries episode into this book. Obviously, I had to change it quite a bit, and that's really where the whole idea started. I wanted to tie the serial killer in. I wanted to base it off my hometown, off my group of friends. I'm inspired by It and Ghoul by Brian Keene. Like those are two of my all-time favorite books, and like I knew coming of age is where I wanted to go with my first novel. So one of the chapters that means the most to me is chapter 3. Howie parked his bike in the garage and glanced at his watch. Somehow he'd managed to arrive home only 10 minutes after curfew. Hopefully his dad would take it easy on him since he was only a few minutes late. He could hear the television through the wall of the garage, likely one of the boring westerns his dad sat through every night. Any hope his dad would not be waiting in the living room for him when he got home vanished. Taking a deep breath, Howie walked inside. As expected, his dad sat in his worn down recliner with the remote resting on his stomach. A black and white movie played on the screen. A cowboy was in the middle of shooting a group of thieves outside of a saloon. His dad shifted his attention from the television. The expression on his face could have fooled the world's best poker player. Howie had no idea what to expect. His dad didn't look mad, but he sure as heck wasn't smiling either. Do you know how to tell time, Howie? Yes, Dad. I'm really sorry I'm late. We got stuck talking to Mr. Carl in town. Kept telling him we had to go home before I was late for curfew, Howie said, lying through his teeth. He had thought of the excuse on the way home, hoping that if his dad thought he was talking to a teacher, that he would at least take it a little easier on him. It was obvious his dad was not pleased with the excuse. Howie could see his jaw tightening as he ground his teeth behind closed lips. For a moment, his dad sat staring at him without saying a word. What the heck are you wasting your time talking to that senile old bastard for? Is listening to him more important than listening to your old man? He asked, then grabbed his old soda bottle from his cup holder and spit tobacco juice in, the brown saliva sinking to the bottom of the bottle. Howie shook his head, afraid that if he spoke, he would say the wrong thing and trigger his dad. He looked around for his mom. It wouldn't do any good, in truth, but in a moment of fear, he did what all kids do, look to his mom for protection. She must have been in their
Mm.
bedroom watching Wheel of Fortune or Jeopardy, whichever was on this time of night. Howie didn't recall. It was only the two of them in the living room, which usually led to the beatings being worse. So, what should we do here then? You know the rules, boy. I don't even want you hanging out around those losers anyway. How many times do I need to tell you to play sports like a real man and stop playing make believe? That made Howie flinch. He hated it when his dad talked that way. If someone wasn't a white male, his dad would typically throw some derogatory word in, making those around him cringe. Being hateful toward anyone different was something he made an art form. It was partially why Howie was attracted to the opposite way of life. His friends were far from normal, which is what he loved about them. He
Mm.
played sports like his dad always wanted him to, and even enjoyed it for the most part. But any time he tried hanging out with the crowd, it only made him realize what he didn't want to be like. And besides, he was not even the best athlete in his own small town. What were the odds he would make it someday as a professional? He would rather chase his dreams of making movies or writing horror novels, something that seemed far more reasonable to reach. Are you deaf? I asked what we should do here. 1 minute or 1 hour, it doesn't make a difference, Howie. Late is late. You think your boss is going to care what excuses you make someday when you show up to your job late? No, Dad, it won't happen again, Howie said. He wanted to say a lot more, but he knew now was not the time for that. Okay, then. I feel like being nice this time, so I'm going to give you an option, his dad said. Howie sighed, knowing neither option would end well for him, and that there was a good chance his dad would end up giving him both punishments anyway. But he bit nonetheless, playing his dad's game. What are my choices? Well, you either get grounded for a week and lose your stupid little Halloween party next weekend, or you get the belt. You're lucky you even have the option. When I was your age, my dad took the belt to me no matter what I did. So what's it going to be? The Halloween homecoming party at the school was something they had been looking forward to for weeks. There was no way he could lose that. He tried to hold back the tears, aware of what he was about to be put through. Belt, Howie said quietly. Speak up, boy. What did you say? I said belt. Oh, now you want to raise your voice. That's an extra lashing right there. Get your ass over here. Howie couldn't hold the tears in anymore and started crying as he walked toward his dad. Why did he have to be such a mean prick? All Howie wanted was to have a relationship with his dad like a normal kid. His dad grabbed the belt sitting next to his chair, a belt he didn't even wear, but kept it in a designated spot for moments like this. He cracked it like a whip in his hands. The sound made Howie jump back, a sound he had heard far too often. The belt was his dad's go to punishment, something that would inflict enough pain yet remain hidden from the public eye. I think I'll throw an extra lashing in for you interrupting one of my favorite movies. How does that sound? He asked. Dad, please, I won't be late again, Howie said, having trouble controlling the crying now. Stop your blubbering, you damn baby. You sound like your mom on her period. Toughen up and take it like a man. It's the hard lessons in life that make you stronger. As he walked closer to his dad, Howie vowed to himself that if he ever had kids, he would never treat them this way. If his dad truly loved him, how could he do something like this to his own flesh and blood? how he closed his eyes and got it over with.
And there you have it, friends. You have just heard from author John Durgin and why this story mattered to him in regards to his debut novel, The Cursed Among Us. Again, I will have all of his contact information linked down below if you would like to check out his book, his comic books, his short stories, his Etsy shop, all of that down below. I hope you're looking forward to hearing from the next author I have lined up. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will catch you in the next one.